Good morning, Turfs Up Radio. Wayne Voles, Profits Unlimited, coming to you live from Louisville, Kentucky. Yes, indeedy. Got a great show playing today. My, oh my. Hope your day's off to a good start. Certainly ours is. Not bad, not bad. We did have a little adventure this morning, which, I mean, not a big deal, but, or hopefully it doesn't turn to a big deal, but shouldn't. Hope not. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But hey, it is another week in the books. The last day. Can y'all believe it? It's the last day of March. Unreal, real unreal. So big shout out to my buddy Aaron Walls and Daniel on getting us all rocked and kicked off for the week here on Turfs Up Radio. And looking really forward to an opportunity to share some stories with y'all today from, the weekend, and got some really good things to talk about today. We're going to talk a little bit about God, the registrations for trucks and trailers and some things you can do to speed that along. And we're going to talk about a little bit of marketing and uniforms and bidding jobs and what do you do when a client does this? And we're just going to have a good, fun time today. Fun/educational, as always, or that's my goal anyway. But a little misty here today and cool. Was really warm yesterday and humid, and but this morning, our rain went through last night about, I don't know, let's call it between 9:30 and midnight. Happy Monday to you, Craig. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate you listening, my friend. But yeah, we had pretty good rain roll through here last night, and rain and wind and some hail and that whole thing. But this morning coming into work, it started misting a little bit, and it's just like the cloud decks like dropped on us. It's almost like, I don't know, fog, if you will, out there, kind of. That's what it amounts to. It's not really, but anyways. But anyway, we're out and about. Hope your weekend went well. I had a great, great weekend. Tabitha made us a great dinner Friday. It was linguine with shrimp and clam sauce. And oh my God, and asparagus. It was really, really good. And then Saturday, we went to eat at this restaurant in a little community called Smithfield, Kentucky, and the restaurant's called Our Best. And I know you guys have got them too, those little nooks that are away from everything else that are just really, really good. And that's where we went out there Saturday with my very best friend, Timmy and Rob and Hamilton and Tabitha. We went out there and had dinner, and they bought dinner for us for my birthday and Tabitha's birthday. Tabitha's birthday's tomorrow, April Fool's Day. She said she used to get a lot of people didn't really think it was her birthday. So, but absolutely. Yeah, true that, Mike. Mike's got his registrations in hand. In hand, he sent us a picture of that. So, yeah, it's that time of the year. It is. It's that time of the year, and it was fun. Got a funny story to talk about that here in just a little bit. But yeah, it's a big day here at WLS. Big day. Looking forward to getting a good day of mowing in, actually, as crazy as that sounds. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about today a little bit is mowing, after a significant rain. How do you decide when you're going to go mow? So we're going to talk about that. And yeah, it's wet, no doubt about it. It's wet. Our event we had this morning is we had a lawnmower get stuck already, and we had to have a rescue operation. So, but that happens. I mean, that's just part of it. It was a small condominium complex on near like a retaining wall. So, yeah, got it stuck, got it out. There you go. So, little things that happen when in the lives and times of a commercial mowing contractor, right? You've probably had one or two stuck yourself over time, but yeah, we that was our start to the day, and we're hopeful that this mist gets out of here. I mean, it's just blah humbug kind of. It's that kind of mist that it's not. It's enough to get things wet, but it takes it a while. It's one of those things. Um, so that's what's going on, and we got some more doing a little pre-emergent today. So from pre-emergent standpoint, good day. Good day. Get it on, get a little water on it, and we'll see what happens. But talking about tonight, temperatures going down to about 38 or something. I think I heard. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't talked to my boys at BAM yet today, so see what they got to say. But uh, Aaron, no, we didn't, man. We just had another lawnmower hooked to it and pulled it out with another lawnmower and a tow strap. So, excuse me. He asked if we used our new tractor to get it unstuck. So no, we just hooked a lawnmower to it and pulled it out with another lawnmower. Hey, if ever you don't have a tow rope, we didn't do that today, but it's happened to us in the past. Many years ago, we actually had a lawnmower that slid in down a hill into a little stream. Not, I mean, it wasn't deep, didn't submerge the mower or anything, but we actually used 095 weed eater line, because we needed about 30 feet or so, and 30, 40 feet. And this goes back a lot of years ago. Derek hooked that weed eater string to the lawnmower that was, hanging over the edge of the water, and put another one on, hooked a string to the other one on top of the hill and gave it a yank and it pulled it straight up. So I'm not suggesting that you try that to save any life threatening situations, but that worked. That worked pretty daggone good for us. So if ever you get in a pinch, man, I'm not saying, that uh, that's what you ought to do, but that's what we did. And by golly, come on up out of there. So, yeah, let's hope that's the last lawnmower we get stuck today. And let's just hope it's the last one we get stuck all year. Actually, we don't get too many stuck anymore. I mean, that's just the reality of it, too. Um, but, I mean, when you're mowing wet grass and you get into a situation, sometimes it's better to not tear the turf completely up trying to get out or even successfully getting out. If you just hook another mower to it and pull it out, and from a distance a little bit, so you're not in that same wet muck area. Um, that might be something fun to talk about too, getting things unstuck. I mean, it's not something we're going to talk about today, and it's not something you talk a long time about. But the reality of it is, it probably has happened to you too. I can't be the only one that's had a lawnmower get stuck before. So, God, I remember once I got one I was in a ditch. I was mowing a ditch line and slid down into this funky, nasty bottom of it. You know, you guys know what I'm talking about, where it smells like crawdads. And God, just working on it, trying to get it out. And, oh my God, I finally got it out. But those are educational events. I'll say that, to say the least. Educational events, to say the least. But anyways, hey, we're going to take a short break. I do want to give you guys a big shout out and tell you thanks for subscribing to our YouTube channel. And if you haven't subscribed to us on YouTube, would appreciate if you would take a second and do that for us. So today on Turfs Up, let's talk about how we decide to go out and do mowing or fertilization weed control apps, but specifically, or any service, but specifically, I want to talk about mowing for a couple minutes. Is to when you know it's wet, what do you use as a deciding factor on, yeah, we're going to go, or no, we're not? And, that can be different for different times of the year. I know for us here, I mean, last night we had, some pretty heavy rain, but the reality, and we got some mist going on now. I hadn't been out in the last hour or so I don't know if it's still misting or not, but what we know for sure is conditions aren't going to bless you. Conditions aren't going to change this week. And matter of fact, it's going to get worse uh, as we get into midweek and then late week. So we decided today to let's go full blown into mow and blow uh, operation. And also, like I said, we're putting down some pre-emerge as well. But the reality of it is, we're going to have quite a bit of water this week, and Wednesday going to get Bam on with me and find out exactly what their thoughts are on it as well. But it's looking like anywhere, for us in our region, and I think that's going like south and west as well in that loop. Um, Somewhere between maybe 6 to 10 inches of rain over Wednesday through Sunday. So when that's Wednesday late. So what we're looking at from a management perspective here is, okay, we probably going to have Monday, Tuesday, and part of the day Wednesday to potentially jam a week's of service in. So we're going to be pushing hard these today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, and hopefully we get a full day in Wednesday. But you take what you can get. So it's not like we could say, well, we had rain last night, we won't do anything today. From a mowing standpoint, we'll let them dry, and then we got 3 or 4 days in a row where it's going to be good weather. That's not the reality of it. So now, like you guys know, and we know, there's some properties that you can mow wet, and some properties that can't be dealt with wet, and you deal with it accordingly. But there is decision making capacity that comes into play with that. That okay, what's the risk versus the reward kind of thing, and I think that's something that we all make uh, based on our customers that we know that can take a wet mow and the ones that cannot take a wet mow, and that's what we're doing. So like I said, we decided to go ahead and mow and do quite a bit of it today and tomorrow, and that's what we're going to do. And I probably may have to answer a couple phone calls on it, but the reality of it is, I'd rather do it now. Get it done while we can rather than skipping a week. We're not skippers here. Um, I know a lot of guys that do that in a week, and especially in the spring when you get multiples, days in a row of rain, they'll skip that whole week out, and but I mean, we generally do not do that. I'm not going to say we've never done it for a client, but that's just not the way we generally do it. I'm just subconsciously and consciously trying to think of how frequently that happens, and the reality of it is it doesn't happen uh, very frequently at all. So, yep, we're going to mow wet grass this week, and or certainly today. Hopefully by tomorrow we're into some better conditions. But we did a landscape last week. One of the landscapes that we did, we got a call this morning that the wind blew a couple of their trees. So talk customer service, right? We're going to go by and reset those trees. So, um, yeah, absolutely, Stephen. He said, so what's that mean? Does it mean, extended hours to get service done in a short week? Absolutely. That's what it amounts to. We'll just go a little harder and longer and try to get it done in our 3 days, or get what we need to get done anyway. And because it's I'm not going to say it's normal to get as much rain as potentially they're talking about us getting later in the week, but what is normal is spring rain. And what I see a lot of companies doing is they don't think about capacity when it comes to mowing, and they schedule all this mowing up, and there's no way that they can get it done. And then you have the frustrations of a whole lot of phone calls and a whole lot of complaints, and people, where you at, where you at, where you at. when the reality of it is just like snow and ice management, we got to think about capacity when it comes to mowing. And you got to be the one that has the flexibility to make the decision of, well, yeah, I know you're normally a Thursday mow, Miss Smith or ABC Company, but Thursday and Friday and Saturday up through Sunday looks to be a complete washout, if you will. And the reality of it is, we're not going to skip it. We don't want to have to skip the entire week. So, and again, that's something you got to do, and you learn as you go, and you get better at it. Good morning, Doug. Appreciate you listening, my friend, and hopefully you guys are doing well up there in Pennsylvania. But yes, indeedy, yeah. So I don't know. It's when I say I don't know, it's always a little challenging. That was this morning to make the call on, yeah, let's just throw resources at it and go at it, and then the first job out, you get a lawnmower stuck, right? And you're like, oh God, yeah, we maybe made the wrong choice, but um, we redirect ourselves and move along. So, be curious what you guys do. Yeah, be curious what you guys do when it rains. Do you just wait for it to dry up, or do you just go ahead and do what you got to do? So shoot me a text. Let me know. 502-550-8307. It's 502-550-8307. How do you handle wet days? Do you just move along with it, or, what do you do with it? So, but yeah, we made the decision to move along with it today. We had a good phone call a little bit, I don't know, about an hour or so ago. Truckload of mulch is on its way. So we had some cedar that we've been waiting on, and it's on its way. So the guy says, I'll probably be there around 2. And I'm like, dude, we might not have anybody here to unload you at 2 o'clock. Might have to be tomorrow morning. And he wasn't mad about it. He really wasn't. Sometimes the drivers, get a little frustrated when you tell them that. But, it's specifically on our order to give us at least a day notice, so we can arrange what we're going to do, how about getting that unloaded. So we'll see, though, when he calls. He was still about 250 miles out. So we'll see. But we'll be glad to get it here regardless. And hopefully he's in, I don't know. Hopefully, I was going to say hopefully he's in a covered trailer, because the stuff comes from state of Washington, I believe, is where we get our cedar from. Um, but, hoping it's going to be dry. But yeah, Doug says they typically don't mow in the rain. And that's a good thing. Hey, if we don't normally do it, but sometimes we do it. So, yeah, I'm just curious what you guys do and how you handle it. Because, like I said, you do know whose you can do and whose you can't do. But looking forward to getting that mulch in here. I know that. So, I think we're kind of running short on our cedar for sure. So, this will help out. This will help out. I think they said there's 20 pallets on this one. It's kind of funny how they can, based on weight. If it's good and dry, then we can get 20. Sometimes we can only get 18 or 17, or you never know for sure what's going to be coming till it's coming. So, but yeah, we're looking forward to getting our mulch, and got 3 trailer tags that we're still waiting on. So I guess tomorrow we'll be pulling illegal trailers around the city. But as slow as our county clerk's office are, on getting things out. I think I told you a little bit about this, about getting, and it does make sense now with as many as we have to drop them off and then they get them done. But they've had a lot of problem with processing tags. And so anyway, they called us and got our biggest group of them completed for us the other day. And we had picked up 3 new trailers to put in service here. And so they just happened to call when I was going out there anyway to drop our new paperwork off to get our tags for our 3 new ones. And long story short, I get out there and I get ours and drop the new stuff off and blah, blah, blah. And if I told y'all this story already, I apologize, but I just wanted to kind of reiterate the story again. Um, they I said, hey, here's everything we got. I gave them my certificates of origin and my bill of sale and that whole thing, and to get them going. And they forgot to get me to sign something, so they called me when I was about halfway back, and Katie reached out, or they called the office, and Katie reached out and said, hey, you need to return back. So I go back over there, and there's literally nobody in there. All 6 clerks had somebody with them, but nobody was there otherwise in line waiting. So I asked the guy, I said, man, can you go ahead and do these? And he wouldn't do it. I mean, he's like, no, you can only do 2 at a time and you got 3. And I'm like, my God, how about we just do 2 of them then, if that don't break the rules. And so here we are. I don't know. I guess I think it's been a week, hasn't it, Daniel? We've been a week.
Yeah, it's been a
Maybe
week,
been a
maybe more.
yeah, maybe more, maybe like 8 or 9 days now to get 3 tags for God's sake. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to go over there, I guess. And then they get their feelings hurt pretty easy when you do that. But anyways, yeah. Steven said his biggest peeve with trucking is no call ahead when they request it. Yeah. And they arrive after your acceptance hours. That's why I don't have any problem telling them, that, hey, we're not taking that load after 2, because, you get into something after 2 and then it's later than that, it just becomes more problematic. So, but, but anyways, we'll be glad to get it. We're looking forward to getting it and getting it in here. So, we'll be happy to see that. But one thing I did want to remind you guys of, if you haven't done it yet, and this may help with renewals for you, because I know one of the biggest frustrations that I used to run into was matching up the VIN numbers, with the trucks and the trailers. And, when you get your insurance card, maybe they typed one of the VIN numbers wrong on the card, and then you get to your renewals and they don't match, and then they're like, hey, the insurance card's not good. And maybe most of you guys know this, but if you're like me and you didn't know it for a while, the reality of it is most insurance company will give you what's called a fleet card, and it just says fleet on it, and it does not have the VIN number of the particular vehicle that it's going to. And you talk about making your life a lot easier when you go to the county clerk's office, or however you do your renewals within your own state. But it just makes that life a whole lot easier. Trust me on that. So if you're not utilizing that option now, even with just 2 or 3 trucks, man, it makes it just a whole lot easier. Utilizing that fleet card versus worrying about the VIN number being, one off, and then having to reach out to your agent and, going about it that way. So a lot of different things can do to save just a little bit of time. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to getting our last 3 back in here so we can do what we need to do with that. So I did pass a guy's business up down the street from us this morning, and they still had a couple plows on trucks and a couple spreaders. So I don't know if they're just holding out for hope, or they're just hadn't got them all off yet. But I think we're safe. I think we're pretty safe in our market. And that's what Brett told me the other day anyway. A couple of weeks ago, y'all heard him here and saying, yeah, probably wasn't going to be real likely for anything. So, yeah, there we go with that. But wanted to talk about a phone call we had this morning too. If you guys are interested in this, I think you may be, some of you guys, because we talk about route efficiency quite a bit, and the reality of we can't be everything to everybody all the time. And this morning we had a potential customer who had called in get a little bit frustrated with Kyle actually, and and here we go. I mean, the guy was about, well, not about, because he actually looked it up. The client looked it up because evidently he must have heard from some other people that he was a little too far out. But he told Kyle, he says, I don't understand why y'all don't want to come out here and service me. I'm only 17 miles from your business. And y'all have heard me say, we'll go for different work, we'll go outside our golden circle, which for us is 12 miles. Okay. For the right work, we'll travel. But this guy wanted fertilization and weed control. And Kyle professionally told him, I'm sorry, you're just outside our service area. He said, we're trying to build our route up that way and blah, 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 trying to give the guy a professional answer. And guy just didn't want to hear it. He said, well, I don't understand. It's only 17 miles away, you know. But what he would have understood is if we'd have told him what it would have cost to get there, and then get back to our regular route, then he would have been thinking, well, you guys are just overcharging me. And so that's why we would rather than overinflating the price for a fertilization and weed control service like that, we would rather tell somebody the truth. It goes back to, if you tell the truth, you don't have to have a memory. But sometimes the truth isn't good enough for somebody. And Kyle said he could tell this guy wasn't satisfied with that answer. He just didn't understand why we didn't go to his location, is what it amounts to. And 17 miles is a big trip. And you say, well, wait, at some point you got to say no to the customer. And I think that's something that you guys need to know and understand, that you can't say yes all the time. It goes back to what we talked about the other day for a little while, that sometimes the most profitable thing you say is no. And would love to have serviced this guy, but it just didn't make sense to tell him, hey, well, yeah, we can service you, but it's going to cost you another $42.80 in drive time. I just made that number up, okay? But whatever it may have been for that 5 miles, because it's not just 5 miles there, it's 5 miles to get back to our regular route, the exterior side of our regular route. Then you're just too high. So then what you have to decide as an owner, or what we decide as an owner, is, would we rather be honest with somebody and tell them, hey, we don't provide service in that area yet, or overinflate the price and they never call you for anything? And they might not call you back anyway, being honest. But our hope is that, hey, if they do want, some landscape lighting or holiday lighting or landscape work done, we'll certainly go the distance. But on a reoccurring service like fert and weed, we don't want to have to overinflate the price to fit in with them. So, what do you think, Daniel? What do you think's the? I'm not, and you weren't going to hurt my feelings with this. I mean, we better off doing it the way we do it, and tell them they're outside our service area, or giving somebody a higher price. What would you want as a consumer?
I guess it goes back to
A higher price to make the trip.
I guess it goes back to, would you rather give somebody the option, or would you rather not give somebody the option?
Yeah, I mean,
pretend, like you said, potentially by giving them the option, you might scare them away and from other services that are more profitable. But by saying no, maybe psychologically you plant that in the customer's head too, that you're the company that says no more than yes.
yeah, this would be a good psychological question for Heckabus. I mean, what's the mindset behind that? You know, does somebody appreciate the honesty, or would they rather you say, hey, going to your point, because I do, you're right in selling the the answer is give your customers a choice between something and something else, and never a choice between something and nothing. So we're not really giving them a choice between nothing by saying we don't provide that service there, but we can do this for you. I know it's not satisfying that immediate need, but yeah, I would really like to know psychologically. And it probably different people think about it different ways. That might be the other side of it too. So I don't know. I might have to reach out to him and ask him about that. It's got me thinking about it now because the reality of it is more and more people in our market and probably yours, and or not probably, but maybe yours, if you're serving an urban area, maybe I know for us, more and more people are moving out further, you know? So for those that are moving out further, do we extend our circle? I guess that's the question. Do we extend our golden circle from 12 to something greater, or leave it at 12 and work on route density within the circle? I mean, it's not wrong or right. It's just you're going to set your business goal up and your model up based on whatever you decide on that. So
I think it makes more sense to work your way out than it does to work your way in, though, too, potentially, right? Like if people are truly moving out, but you still have enough customers to do what you want to do within your 12-mile radius or whatever it is, then you continue with your 12 miles and then you slowly build out as potential customers also go out a little bit.
yeah,
So, you don't go from 12 to 17 maybe, but maybe in 2 years you're at 16 or 17.
right. And then start soliciting work in that area. And then the initial drive time you have is just to get to that route, but you're going to do 20 yards that day out
Right.
there. You're going to go out and treat 20 lawns and then come back. So spreading that cost that away. So yeah, that's something we need to think about. I mean, because every time we do get the frustration from a customer about this, and here's the thing, I mean, we always have a few a year that call from that area. So if we put if we slowly put those on, then hey, then maybe you do have a route in that area. So
Or maybe you do a marketing campaign to that specific area with some door hangers or flyers or whatever that says, "Hey, our minimum is $63 or whatever, it would be to go out there and do it and try to get 10, in that given area and build up your area quicker than just waiting for them to call in 3 per year, just see what you can do on a more mass scale to build that area up."
yeah. Now here's a point. David said people move, and he moved out a little bit, so maybe that's it. This is coming from his perspective. People move out to save money. So the ones moving out generally want to save money and don't want to pay for good service. Or
I mean, that could be.
that could be some of it too. I know initially when moved to Mount Washington, which is now just Louisville South, really. But at one point in time, that was out a little bit. You could get more home, more property, more bang for your buck, if you will,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you were going out a little further.
That's still true, but certainly not to the same degree.
Yeah, but David makes a valid point here. They want to save money, uh, and I don't know, maybe they want to be on the same playing field. And that was a point Kyle made this morning after he hung up with the guy that, you know, saying, they want to go out and have the rural setting, but
Have the same convenience.
have the same conveniences of an urban environment.
Yeah.
So that could be the challenge. I mean, that really can be the challenge for each and every one of us. So I don't know. I thought I'd throw that seed of thought out there for you guys as well. And then this is on a different note, but Craig sent me this text this morning, and I think it makes really good sense to talk about for a few minutes, and that is the other side of the spectrum of professionally firing a client. How do you go about professionally firing a client? And I think, Craig, I think it depends on the circumstances involved. Number one is, um, you firing them, obviously, is that's what we're talking about, is the company getting rid of the client, not the client getting rid of you. But I think the reality of it is sometimes it's necessary to fire a client. We've done a few. Um, when you decide to do it, it's you just follow through with it and do it. And what I've found, for us, when we fire somebody, we just literally tell them, hey, this isn't a good situation for you or us. If it's that kind of situation, um, whether it's a service issue, a quality issue, a satisfaction issue, you know, then I think you just tell your client, hey, this isn't good for either one of us. I'm gonna go ahead and just discontinue service according to the terms of our service contract. This is our 30-day notice for our residentially. Now, if it's somebody that doesn't want you to cancel and you want to cancel, I think realistically you go about it the same way. You should have within your service agreements a written cancellation clause, that states what the cancellation time period's going to be, and if you're going to provide service or not during that term of that cancellation, or how that's going to go down. But yes, I just think it's a difficult decision sometimes to get rid of somebody, especially if they've been with you for a while. But at the end of the day, we got to look at what's the ultimate reason that we're in business, and that's to make a profit. So if for some reason that account's not allowing that to happen, then certainly you need to make a change. Now, if you're making a fair profit on the job and you just can't make the person happy, then the profit goes, the customer goes, and you go out and you find a better customer. But to answer your question directly is, I don't think there's one solid way of firing a customer other than the fact you simply do it. You give them a phone call, or you send them an email, whatever you're comfortable with doing. And I think that would be based on the client, what service you're providing, how long they've been a customer. If they've been with me a while, I'm probably going to give them a phone call and tell them, hey, we're going to part ways professionally, and hopefully we can both be friends. Kind of like Mr. Grossi the other day parted ways with us. He parted professionally. Hey, Wayne, he says, I hope you understand why I'm switching, and, appreciate the service over all the years. So I think the key factor there is to do it professionally. And that is, I think Craig, let's see, he's got a thing in here about this person, though. He said, I've got one that's just not working out. She's difficult and maybe not all there. I'll send her a note later today that'll cover the basics. We don't seem to be a good fit. It's best for both parties to go our separate ways. I think that's the technique I would utilize in that situation. Absolutely. Without a doubt. Let's see what Mike's got to say here. Mike said, I have a client who came on board last year and signed a service agreement for full maintenance. We sat at her kitchen table and went through everything. Everything in all caps. The first invoice they received, they got mad about the price, which they agreed upon when they signed. I tried to salvage the relationship, and I thought I did. Everything last year from May to November was fine. Well, here we are this season, and all the pricing is an issue again, even after signing the agreement and returning it in January. I'm calling her today to cancel service. I mean, yeah, that it can get frustrating. I mean, it's you explain it to them, you sit down with it, you go over it, and then they have a question, so you explain it to them again, and then here you're back at the same point. It may be time, to do that, to just do that. Um, um, Craig said, let's just put it this way: I get more complaints from this one customer than seemingly everyone else combined. Yeah, we've had those too, Craig, and that's when you just do it. And then the bad part about that is then somebody generally takes their place as the next worst client. But the reality of it is you get tired of the frustration that you're putting yourself through. I understand that side of it too. But um, Mike's points very well said he thinks his just needs a handyman, and not a lawn service. My mom told my aunt that one time. She was complaining about our service, and she said, maybe you just need a gardener and a handyman versus, somebody's going to come out and mow your lawn. Because at that time, we weren't treating lawns, so we were just mowing, occasional mulching, or some hedge trimming for her, So that's it too. Sometimes it's just not a good fit. Um, let's see. Fred's got a text here. He says, don't know what you got until it's gone. Let them figure that out. If you do it any other way than professionally, you just ensure they'll never return. 0% of zero is always zero. Absolutely. And I think that's a great point, Fred, as well. You know, uh, however you do it, the point Fred's making there is don't burn the bridge behind it. You know, unless you want to burn the bridge. And I've only burned that bridge twice in my 46 years of being in business with somebody. Where we specifically told them, do not call us again. And I've only done that twice. And other than that, it's wide open. It's open for people, that cancel us or we cancel them. Um, and specifically for customers that cancel you or fire you, if you just remove your ego sometimes away from it, they, to Fred's point, sometimes they forget how good they had it. And that's what I'm hoping happens here with Mr. Grossi's situation. That, he does have a really nice looking lawn. We've got his lawn in really good shape. And like I told him, I shared that with you all last week. It'll take a growing season for it to deteriorate, you know.
What would
But
be cool is to go over there and take a picture of it now and send it like a year later and say, "Hope your lawn is still looking this good." Like
yeah,
it
right.
could be a mass email that just happens to be his yard, and he sees it and goes, "Huh," you know,
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That is true.
something
That
something to just be a little nudge, a little
a
reminder.
little reminder of before and after
Yeah,
kind of thing. And if it looks better, send it.
yeah.
Yeah, which is possible
Well, if it
too.
doesn't look better, it's not like you're losing anything anyway.
Yeah,
They're not going to come back if it's better anyway. So
that's a
if you
good point.
send it, it looks better.
Absolutely.
I mean, you've
That's
lost nothing.
yeah. That's right. To Fred's point, 0% of zero zero.
Yeah.
But Mike said I might burn the bridge on this one. I might even dredge the river a little deeper. Ha ha. So I get it. I mean, we've all had that customer, we and if you haven't, you will. For you guys listen and say, man, I can't believe you'd ever do that to a customer. Well, yeah, every once in a while you run into that one. Like I said, I've only ran into two. Um, it was this was kind of funny last night with the weather running through. When they put out a tornado warning for us, and excuse me, was talking to Kyle and Katie in a little family chat we have because we're scattered throughout the city. Um, Kyle got a message on a phone call or something coming through our office, and he made reference to joking about this customer of ours we have. He said, well, maybe that's so and so. He's complaining about his chickweed. Because the last time that we had a tornado warning, it was during the day, and we were here at the shop, and he called in talking about some rocks or something. He, wanting to get some rocks taken out or put in or something. But I mean, we're right in the middle of a tornado warning. You could hear the sirens in his background as well. And we're like, all right, this guy's obviously either can't hear well or is not concerned with anything other than what his problem is, and he wants to get solved. But so we kind of had a little laugh about that last night when that was him calling and leaving a message. But I never did ask Kyle what that was about, Daniel. We got to see if he left us a message or not. But Mike said this is the first time in 8 years that he's felt this way about a customer. So that's good. It doesn't happen too often. So, yeah, got to fire him. Got to fire him. Sometimes it's just time to fire him. So, and know that that's the best thing for you and them, and grow with that. So, speaking of that, let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Corey just sent us a good text. He said he had one like that and she refused to pay her last bill. She called 2 years later asking to restore service. I reminded her she still owed me money. She had the money when I arrived. I took the payment, said thank you, and left. Bridge atomized. Blew it up, I guess, huh, Corey? So sometimes, hey, it's nice that you got your money. We had one last year, Corey, very similar to that. Called and wanted to restart service. Katie reminded them that they owed us some money, and they hung up. So didn't did, didn't want to pay. And then we had another one that Katie just said right now that it's called and what restarted service this year, and paid the outstanding balance. So both sides of that story, both sides of the story. So, it is. It's just funny when, you lose a customer, or you got to fire a customer, or they fire you, to Fred's point, very well taken. A lot of times we don't blow the bridge up, because sometimes they do just forget what they had and how good it was. And not that you're the only person that can do it well for them, or I'm the only person that can do it well for them. I think it just goes down to the reality of, they forget. We all do. We all get complacent with things. And the reality of it is money becomes important again because they forgot what it was like, having a problem in their lawn, or not getting their lawn mowed, or the hedges not being trimmed right, or the mulch not being looking right, or whatever it may be. Fill in the blank on what services are that you provide for somebody. But so don't burn that bridge most of the time. But I will say this too, and in all fairness to the bridge burning episodes. The 2 times that I told a customer, please don't ever call us back again, it made me feel good. As much as I hated it from a business perspective, it was like a tremendous weight was lifted off my shoulders. So I'm not saying that let me rephrase that. I'm not bragging about it in any stretch of the imagination, because when you look at customer acquisition cost and, things like that, the last thing we want to do is get rid of somebody that we're providing service for in a lot of cases. But what we also got to be smart enough to do is get rid of people that aren't working out. And whether that means working out from we can't make them happy through service satisfaction, or we can't make them happy about pricing. They always want to complain about it's too expensive, or whatever. You ought to, both you and them, to change that for a given length of time. Hey, let's cancel this. For your best interest and my best interest, we both need to go our own separate ways. If it doesn't work out, reach out to us. And I think realistically, when we started soliciting people that had fired us, and, we've talked about this on previous shows, but, we'll wait a while. And a while, whatever a while means, is based on how that relationship was terminated. But we'll wait a while and start targeting those customers to come back. And some tell us to please don't ever contact them again. That's one option. Some will just get our emails and read them and not unsubscribe or hire us. And some do come back. Some do come back. And what we found is a lot of times the ones that do come back, they come back much more loyal and understanding because they've had a taste of what it was like, again, of not being able to get the job done the way they wanted it done in the time frame that they wanted it done. And they start spending too much time babysitting, if you will, a commercial service that's supposed to be a landscaping business or a fert and weed business or a lighting business or whatever it is service that you provide. So, yeah, roundabout answer, Craig. But I think absolutely the reality of it is we need to fire customers occasionally, but we fire them professionally generally. But there is going to be that occasional occurrence when you say, Miss Smith, we appreciate your business, but we just can't work together. And just forget our phone number. It's harder to do it than it is to say it, though. Let me say that. It is harder to do it than it is to say. Because both times that I've had to go that route with it, I wasn't proud about it, but I did feel better about it. So, hey, you guys have a safe day. It is Monday. Hopefully your Monday's off to a good start. But, hey, let's look at it this way. Might be a manic Monday start, but it's going to be, hey, it's going to be a good afternoon. It's going to be a good Tuesday, good rest of the week. And it's up to each and every one of us to have the type of day that we want to have. The only thing we can control are the changes within the day. So something weird happens, figure it out, move along to the next thing. And remember, profit is not a dirty word. We'll see you Wednesday.